Hello, bonjour, Alberta. Did you know that at least 238,000 people speak français in Alberta? And those numbers just keep on growing? Oui, oui, c'est vrai, it's true. And thanks to Shaw TV Community Access Programming, we get to reach out to everyone to let you know all about special people, places, events, and activities happening right here in this great province, in both English and en français. That's right, mes amis. We begin the first part of our program in English, and then we repeat it en français. So stay with us. Restez à l'écoute.
Bienvenue and welcome to Hello, Bonjour, Alberta. My name is Luigi Labarrière.
And I'm Anne Boiteau.
And today our special guest will talk to us about military history in Alberta and all abroad. So welcome to Dr. Guevremont.
Good evening.
Welcome. You are a doctor in military and aviation, right?
I am a military historian and I have a PhD, so people call me Dr. Stéphane Guevremont because it comes with the education. But I've always been a military historian by myself, personal interest, since I was 8-10 years old. So it's just a logical conclusion that I got the degree. And I did a degree in aviation, but I don't restrict myself just to aviation. I can teach military history from the Greeks to today. My specialty is really 20th century warfare, but I like also to delve in other fields of history.
Wonderful.
And what brought you to Calgary, Stéphane?
Oh, I came here on the purpose.
You're not from Alberta.
No, I'm from the south shore of Montreal, from Varennes. Varennes is an interesting town because it was founded by a soldier of the 1st Regiment who came to North America, the regiment of Carignan-Salière, which came here to fight the Mohawks. And that was the first military unit, the professional military unit, sent to North America. And in 1688, one of the soldiers was given land past Longueuil and Boucherville, especially Boucherville that most people know, and he created the town of Varennes. So it's funny for me, coming from a military town, that I now teach military history. I came out west because of a veteran. I was driving a veteran across Canada because I got him a pension and he wanted to pay me and I refused. So I said, you have relatives in Vancouver, I'll be your chauffeur. And he was 82 years old, so we drove together. Wow. And then I had a job in Vancouver on the first day I arrived there. I stayed 2 years in Vancouver, and then I decided to do my PhD, and the best place was Calgary.
For the type of PhD you wanted to do?
This is the capital of military history in Canada, really. The University of Calgary has 6 military historians, lots of scholarships, lots of funding. So it was obvious for me to come here.
Oh.
It was the best place to be.
Not much of a history, though, as far as Calgary is concerned.
I would have to correct you on that, lady.
Really?
Because Calgary is a military garrison. It always had military units here. At one time, it had, in its history, over 9 airfields. There were permanent and reserve units stationed here all the time for almost 100 years. And there's a lot of military history in Calgary that most people don't know. And now that they're destroying the remnants of Currie Barracks, it will disappear. But there's still an active brigade here. The 41st Brigade is still here. And there were units that serve in both World Wars that are still stationed in Calgary, the Calgary Highlanders and the King's Own Calgary Regiment, of which I'm wearing the badge tonight. Okay. So lots of history, and people forget it, but there's a lot to be said about the military past of this town.
Oh. Wow. There is a number on the west side of Calgary, up on West Hills, on the hill.
It's Seigneul Hill, it's Battalion Hill. Those numbers are very famous in town. They were made during the First World War. They were created for artillery spotters. And actually, the King's Own Calgary Regiment is redoing or restoring all the interpretative plaques that are on the park. So at the end of next year, you will have new text, new images, and I participated in finding research students for that project. So we are rediscovering the history of those numbers and putting it for the public on a permanent display in that park. But they were used because at Sarcee Camp, which doesn't exist anymore, just past the casino, and it's also at the end of the park, Fish Creek Provincial Park.
Oh, yes.
You had a shooting range, and you had a training area for the military, and they used the numbers on the hill during their training, and it's also a leftover from the units that went overseas in the First World War. So lots of history there too.
Yes.
Oh, it's wonderful information. You have so many information on the Army and the World Wars. You were a senior guide also.
I was a guide at the National Aviation Museum in Ottawa, but if you want to talk about the military, I did go to the Royal Military College, but as a civilian.
Okay.
I was never in the armed forces.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe I'm too independent for that, but I was accepted in 1996 for the master's program, a Master's of Arts in War Studies, a very multidisciplinary program, and they gave me a master's program free, so I didn't pay. It was like a scholarship. And I was not a soldier, but I was studying with colonels and majors, and I was studying in a military institution, and we were only 5 civilians at that time. Today, you can enter as a civilian, register and pay normal Ontario government fees, and do a graduate degree there as you wish. But when I was there, we were only 5, and it was a great experience. So that's my link with the military education.
Okay.
I also do historical work for Canadian units. So I'm the historian for 419 Squadron in Cold Lake. I work with 404 Squadron in Greenwood, and I've also worked with the King's Own Calgary Regiment. I just came back from a battlefield tours in Italy with them in mid-October. So I'm very closely associated with them, but I don't wear a uniform, I don't salute. I think I have the best of both worlds.
Yes, exactly.
I was going to say that.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it give you also the chance to be a radio host. Host also. You do a chronicle on CBC?
Well, in 2005, I started to talk about the war in Afghanistan and the involvement of Canada in the military conflict overseas, because I had some knowledge of those topics. And since for almost 10 years now, I've been doing radio columns on CBC French Radio 1 in Alberta. I've participated in other media, television and radio shows for other companies and networks, but really CBC has been my host network for about 10 years now. And for 3 years we did weekly columns on the war in Afghanistan and on the Canadian military. So that was great. Now we're doing monthly columns on the history of Alberta, all kinds of topics, especially like today, Halloween. Last year I did a 6-7 minute radio show on the history of Halloween in this province, because there are things to say. So it's a diversified employment, and I enjoy it a lot.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And now it gives you the chance to host the 5th annual Canadian Force Memorial Film Festival, exactly?
Yes, 5 years ago in Fort Macleod, a little town that most people don't know, 2 hours south of Calgary. You just drive all the way to the end of the Queen Elizabeth Highway, and then you turn left and you arrive at this small town. They have
one street only?
No, there's 2 main streets. If you've been to Fort Macleod, you should know one way in and one way out.
Exactly.
And they have a centennial theater. It's called the Empress Theater.
Yeah.
And 5 years ago, we did the first film festival, and I'm the master of ceremony, and it's been going on for 5 years. We honor veterans, and we offer rare movies that you never see on the big screen. And it's a centennial theater. It's beautiful. It has great acoustics, great sound system, and you're in a very vintage building. Protected and historical building, and I present the background of the movie battle or the campaign or whatever topic it is. We watch the movie and then we analyze the movie afterwards. So Friday the 7th of November this year till Sunday the 9th of November, we're going to show 5 rare films that most people have never seen. and we're going to have veterans on Saturday afternoon. And for the Francophone population, Saturday morning is the French Resistance. So I will give a 1-hour lecture on what was the resistance in France during the German occupation. Then we'll watch a great movie with Burt Lancaster called The Train from 1956, if I remember well. And then on Sunday afternoon, we're watching another French movie, Joyeux Noël, Merry Christmas, about the Christmas truce of 1914. So I will explain that prior to the screening of the movie.
That's very
And then people can ask questions, and we're going to discuss the movie afterwards. So I invite everybody to come and join us there.
Yes, and where can people get info on that?
Well, it's online, and you just show up on the 7th of November in Fort McLeod. So.
Exactly. And if they want more, just to be precise, we can give them the website address. It's empresstheater.ab.ca.
Yes,
And
very
phone.
easy.
There we go.
Or you Google Fort McLeod Theater, and it's going to come up on the Google search.
Wow. And you work also in not too far from your native town, also at Pratt & Whitney on the South Shore.
Oh, yeah, that
also.
was in the past, yes. I have multiple lives behind me, and the first one was as an aircraft mechanic. So I grew up on the South Shore, and the South Shore of Montreal is one of the birthplaces of aviation in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I discussed that during my PhD thesis research. So I went back to my roots, and a lot of companies grew out of Montreal in World War II. One of them was Pratt & Whitney Canada, which manufactured aircraft, aircraft engines. It was done for the Harvard airplane, a trainer that was used across Canada during the Second World War. So my first job as an apprentice, as an aircraft mechanic apprentice, was at Pratt & Whitney flight tests at St. Hubert Air Base. Airport
Not too
on the
far.
South Shore, 20 minutes away from where I live. And this airport too is very important in Canadian aviation history, because you might remember the British dirigible, the R100, came to Canada. Famous photos. That was done at Saint-Hubert when it's hanging on its mast. And Saint-Hubert was an active Air Force base for almost a half a century. So, so I was very proud to work there. And then I worked for Bombardier, which is Canadair. So my second job in the field was at Dorval, and I worked on the regional jet and the Challenger 604, which people might remember the regional jet. It's still flying today. Air Canada uses it as a medium-range jet aircraft.
Okay.
They go to Washington, New York. So I was on the prototype in 1991. So that was pretty interesting.
Wow.
So yeah.
You know, I gotta say, you feel the passion of this man.
Yes,
Because for me,
definitely.
Army is like, okay, let's talk about something else. But you know, it's not you sell it. You just share your passion for it. And like you were telling me about your doing when you were doing your master, becoming a doctor. You did a particular job, because you said you had different life, but you said you did a particular job, landscaping, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yes. When I was in Montreal for 10
That's
years.
just to relax.
Just to
Yes.
relax, I guess, because you're so passionate.
But I'm still passionate about landscaping too, because I went back this summer as a volunteer landscaper for ladies who are living alone in their homes, or people who have
Elderlies,
nobody.
yeah.
Because I like doing this. Yeah, when I was 14, it's my generation and your generation too. We used to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My parents said, "Go and find a job, do something. You're not gonna stay idle at home."
Newspaper, they get creative.
Yes, I did that too, newspaper.
There you
and, so I started to cut grass when I was 14 years old,
Right.
and I kept that for 10 years. And actually, when I moved out to Ottawa, my father kept the elderly people that were left alone when I left, because I had to move for my job and my life away from Montreal, and I still had 2 clients that were elderly, and my father continued to take care of them until they retired or sadly died, and he continued the job because it was important.
Yeah.
So this summer, after so many years of not cutting grasses, not taking care of a house, I just offered my services, and I do it for people who have bungalows, and I enjoy every minute of it. Passion is the reason I'm still alive.
I guess so.
Yes.
And I guess we're going to see you in your passionate moment at the festival in
Yeah, and there's
November.
more, because I will be giving 2 talks in Calgary at the Calgary Public Library on World War I in November, November 14th at 7 o'clock, and November 28th at 7 o'clock also. So I encourage people to come and listen to me. It's in English at the John Dutton Theatre downtown. And the first talk on the 14th of November is on the Eastern Front in World War I. This is a very rare topic. And the second topic is going to be the Western Front and the Christmas truce. So if you're interested, come and join us.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Coming up next, on continue en français.